5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, it's a wonderful time here at the Culture Clash because Ahsoka Watch 2023 continues on our continuing coverage of Ahsoka this week, episode 7. Hard to believe we're already there. Before I get started, though, a couple of things I need to address just real quick before I introduce my co-host for this week's show. I got to give a special shout out to my dad. Happy birthday to my dad. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. I love you, Dad. Throwing that out there. Happy birthday. But I got to get to the show. And the show requires special guests. And we have one very, very special guest this week. We call him Nathan Filclone. He is, of course, from What a Piece of Junk. He's double parked the Drunken Gungan, much like Derek Marsh did last week. But we allow him to it. We like him much better than Derek. It is Nathan Gooey Chewy Miracle.
Hello there.
How are you, sir?
Oh, I am doing great. It is a Friday evening, which is a great thing. Weekend's coming up, and we get to talk about Ahsoka. What could be better than that?
Oh, without a doubt. But you know, I got one other person. I seem to remember him. It's been a while. I think he was a co-founder on this network. In fact,
No, you do this solo, don't you?
That's what I thought too. But you know, I think he's had a few baguettes, a few beignets, a few other foreign foods that I can't pronounce. But he is back here on the Culture Clash. He is the one, the only, my brother from another mother, the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, the very own Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What's up, guys? Welcome.
Hey, I know that guy.
Good to see you guys. How are you? I'm back.
You have been away on many travels, and we're going to talk about some of those travels later on in this episode because you saw some very cool things while you were out on your travels. But I have both of you gentlemen here now. Nathan, people have been hearing some of your takes on Ahsoka if you've been listening to our wonderful What a Piece of Junk podcast, which covers all things Star Wars. But while I have you here, Nathan, can you give us kind of your perspective on Ahsoka so far going into episode 7?
It's been a great series so far. Weirdly, I felt like Ahsoka was kind of the weak point for most of the series, but she's really come into her own in the last couple of episodes. And it's basically Rebel Season 5 when you get down to it. It's called Ahsoka, but she's only kind of the main character. We've got Ezra, we've got Sabine, we've got Huyang. Well, he wasn't in Rebels, but still, we'll take him. Chopper, a great ensemble, and Thrawn. So happy to see Thrawn come back, all building up to a movie that will be released later, and who knows what's going to happen with that. So oftentimes with these shows, we get to the end, and we think, man, there's so much that they've got to tie up in that last episode. This time, we don't. We don't have to tie any of it up because it's all going to come up in a movie later on that Dave gets to direct. And, you know, I'm talking to him with my Filclone hive mind, and it's going to be great.
First of all, hello to David Lozano from Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We love having you on and part of the chat. Hope you're doing
Welcome,
well.
dude. Yeah, where's Zeb?
Yeah, we're going to get to that a little later, believe it or not. But Mr. Reitzel, you have been traveling the world, mainly Europe. Yeah, I know you've been trying to get out the occasional mystery signal out there, but you really have not had a chance to talk Ahsoka other than the episodes that aired right before you took off for the European lands. I know you're caught up. What have your thoughts been so far on Ahsoka?
Yeah, I've had to catch up on Ahsoka in strange cities in northern UK and southern Scotland and in Paris and stuff like that, you know. But I was able to do it. I had my iPad with me and stuff. So I have been enjoying the show. I've had some questions and maybe about the pacing a little bit. Sometimes Ahsoka kind of feels like a guest star in her own show at a few times. But I'm still enjoying the moments I do see with her. This is Sabine. has been fun to see as well. My favorite though is Balin. I was bummed out when we found out that Ray Stevenson passed away, and we will not be able to see him be this character again. Not only that, but not see him enjoy the fandom reaction to his character, and that made me sad. And it's kind of funny because when you travel overseas, if you have the Disney Plus app, when you fire it up on whatever country you're in, it will give you that version of Disney Plus. And so in the UK, when you fire up your Disney Plus, they have other movies and stuff on that Disney Plus that they don't have in the United States. So I was able to fire up Disney Plus and watch one of the most violent Punisher movies starring Ray Stevenson called Punisher Warzone, because I really liked him in that movie, and watch that in paying a little tribute to him, as well as watching him as Balin Skull in this series. He's been my favorite part of it. Ahsoka, for me as a character, I'm kind of waiting for her to really kind of kick it in a little bit. I know some people have been teasing her that she's Ahsoka, she hasn't smiled a lot. She doesn't, really kind of put stuff out there verbally. She kind of, fills in a little bit of the holes here and there. But I think that it's just a matter of time that we'll probably see a little bit more of that. And it was nice to see her smile in this recent episode. Thrawn, I love seeing live action Thrawn, but the problem I'm having with live action Thrawn through these recent episodes is kind of what some people have kind of shown a little criticism of in the past, especially in Rebels, where he's like, oh, we've just lost this detachment, or we've lost this, or this person escaped. And he's like, it's all by my design. It's all by the big picture. We all have time on our side. And you're waiting for Thrawn to just bring the hammer down and be the badass that he is, at least that I'm used to in the original Legends books, where he was a badass. Right now, because he's very calculating. He gets to know his enemies. He gets inside your head. And I'm kind of waiting for that Thrawn to step up to the platform a little bit. Right now, we're not getting that. There's something going on with the Night Sisters. There's floating coffins going on here. But he's letting people get away. he's letting the reunion happen. And so I'm just kind of curious of where that's going to.
David said he was surprised that you weren't wearing a beret. I just have to clarify that for you, David. He did have a nice raspberry beret, but he had to surrender it as he was leaving France.
There was berets at every single street corner shop in Paris. I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to be that guy.
Well, guys, before we get any farther in this episode and start talking about episode 7 of Ahsoka, that is right. Spoiler alert. We are going to be doing a deep dive into episode 7 of Ahsoka. So if you have, for some reason, not watched the episode yet, get on Disney Plus, watch it, come back, join us on our live feed here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, or come watch it again later, or check out the podcast version when we release that later on. But guys, I am very excited to be talking all things Ahsoka, because for me, it's been a very fun ride, and I think there's some very interesting things that have happened in the last couple of episodes. And we are at the penultimate episode. The next episode, episode 8, is the finale for whether it's this season or the end of this series, depending on what the plan is. So this was a big episode to get into. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and start talking about episode 7 of Ahsoka. Real quick, too, I just want to bring up something we've been doing throughout. Kevin started this before we left. The growth of Ahsoka through the live action. Our characters who just keep adding and adding and adding. We're going to get to some of those characters we saw, but it is time to talk Ahsoka episode 7, Dreams and Madness. Mr. Reitzel, would you care to give us a plot synopsis?
I would love to. Got you back here. All right. On Coruscant, Hera faces a disciplinary hearing with tribunal member Senator Ziono objecting to her reports of the secret Imperial Remnant conspiracy. C-3PO arrives, provides the tribunal with a fake authorization by Leia Organa, forcing the court to absolve Hera and convincing Mon Mothma that the threat is real. Arriving at Peridea, is that how I'm pronouncing it right? I don't know.
Perdea.
Perdea? Is that what it is? Okay, Perdea. The Purgles run into a minefield left by Thrawn's forces and retreat. Continuing alone, Ahsoka and Hu Yang are attacked by enemy fighters and hide in the debris field, compelling the Grand Admiral to adopt a more calculated approach. Ahsoka locates Ren through the forest and heads to the planet's surface. Ezra, Sabine, and the Nati are attacked by Hati, the bandits Sabine had previously encountered, and Thrawn's night troopers, while Baylan leaves to pursue his own agenda. Ahsoka's intervention leads to Thrawn withdrawing his remaining night troopers and preparing his imminent departure. Hati is forced to retrieve, and Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are joylessly reunited. Yay! The end.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to ask each of you. Nathan, I'm going to start with you. What were your initial reactions to this episode of Ahsoka?
I loved this episode of Ahsoka. So we start off with the ship coming in, with Ahsoka's ship coming in, going through that minefield. To me, that was kind of the weakest part of this episode. The minefield showed up, seemed like it was going to be this huge obstacle, and then they got through it very easily. But then they went to the whale graveyard where they hid amongst the bones. And I was reminded very much of The Empire Strikes Back. It felt very similar to hiding in the asteroids. We even got a scene where we're exiting the mouth of a giant space entity. Granted, that was before they got to the whale bones, but still, the shot was similar. And it also showed a difference between Thrawn and Vader. Thrawn said, yeah, they're going to have to come out eventually. You know, we can find them in there. Vader was like, no, you TIE fighters, you got to go in there. Are you all going to get blown up? Absolutely. Do I care? Absolutely not. Thrawn, much more conservative, much more calculating. And then later we get to see our heroes reunite. We get to see them fight alongside of each other. And it really felt like Ahsoka has come back. Early on in the season, Ahsoka felt joyless, Ahsoka, as Kevin put it. But ever since she went through the Clone Wars scenes, she really seems to be getting back to her old self. And that's a much more interesting Ahsoka.
Mr. Reitzel, what about you? How are you feeling about this episode after watching it?
I enjoyed it, especially getting the reunion of, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra. And it's interesting too, when Nathan was talking about that scene where Ahsoka and Huyang arrive in the ship with the space whales, and there's that minefield. I was kind of he was saying it kind of reminded him of Empire Strikes Back. I was going back to Attack of the Clones a little bit with the fight scene in the asteroids with Jango and Boba Fett chasing Obi-Wan around, and what Obi-Wan was trying to do to elude them. I was like, oh no, the space whales, don't kill them, no. But I thought that was kind of a cool way to get them in there and get, show a little danger, a little bit of a starfighting scene as well. But I liked when, of course, we got down on the planet, and you see the Nati, is that, if I'm remembering them correctly, little cute little aliens with the little round bubble tanks. I liked just a few of the moments that Sabine and Ezra were having, just kind of talking before they got attacked. And then, of course, when they kind of, as they said in the Old West, kind of, rounding the horses around and trying to fight off the what are they, bandits, I guess?
Yeah, the bandits.
Raiders.
Bandits, yeah, the Raiders. And then, of course, the stormtroopers then arrived with Hati. But the thing that I'm trying to find out, I find really fascinating, is what's going on with Baylan Skoll. And we got a cool standoff with him and Ahsoka, which I really liked. And like I said, Baylan Skoll has been my favorite part of this series thus far. Ray Stevenson has been nothing short of fantastic with this character, and one of the coolest Star Wars characters I have seen in a long time. I love what he's doing here, and you feel like he has his own agenda. And the feeling I got with this episode was like, almost he has his own agenda without Hati. You know, I kind of got that feeling, and especially when Ahsoka at the end says, "Drop your weapon," I can help you, Tahati, and then she's like, "Nope, I'm out." So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. I obviously feel like we're going to be getting some type of cliffhanger. I think we'll probably get a season 2 of Ahsoka, but I'm just really curious what's going to go on with Baylan Skoll and how they're going to end this now that we know that he's not around anymore. Unfortunately, he's an actor, and I'm sad about that.
No, I agree with everything you just said about Ray Stevenson, and he has been one of my favorite parts of this series as well. As for me with my thoughts on the episode, I thought the episode was great. I did find it a little interesting because usually Disney has had a trend in the penultimate episodes to have something really major happen, and it really didn't feel like that happened in this episode. But there's so many interesting things going on, and I've also come to the acceptance already and the realization that I am not going to be completely satisfied with this ending because we are going to be leaving on a lot of cliffhangers. So I think I've already figured out one thing, guys. Bear with me just real quick. I have a feeling Thrawn's going to get away and our heroes are going to be stranded on this planet until a particular blue box appears and a guy kind of spindly, timey-wimey comes up. Gets along real good with the droid on the leftover on the planet, and that's how they're going to get off the planet.
Yeah, Professor Wynn, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
David Lozano in the chat saying I'm really enjoying watching Shin Hati, and I agree. I'm really curious to see where her character is going to end up because it feels like Baylan has been building her up. Like you're not a Jedi, you're something more. He says, but it almost feels like he's hanging her out to dry, so to speak. So I'm really curious to see where that's going to go, and is she going to be the one that turns? So yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question just in general before we get into more of our in-depth discussion about episode 7 about Ahsoka in general, and something I've been kind of feeling because one of the things about this show is even though we're seeing familiar faces come back with the Rebels characters and things like that, I really feel like we're getting a couple of characters who are being set up to be a major player later on in future storylines. One is Shin Hati, and I think the other one is Jace Syndulla. They dropped a lot of hints early on with him that there is much more to Jace than what is meeting the eye. Obviously, his connection to his father, Kanan Jarrus, being a Jedi. And I think they're setting some things up for both of these characters in the future to be pretty powerful aspects of Star Wars. And that's one of the things I'm liking about Ahsoka is I feel like, yes, we're dealing with the here and now, but they are setting up some interesting pieces going forward as well.
I'm curious of what's with these Jedis that have been hiding out or lost, and they're reunited with their original lightsabers, and they don't want them.
I have theories on that. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. But
The lightsaber is just a tool. You don't need to rely on the lightsaber.
But you know what, guys? I have dug into some holocrons, so let's talk a little Star Wars trivia. That is right. We have some Star Wars trivia for you. And Easter eggs from this episode. I found some very interesting things that are worth taking note here. So, guys, bear with me a minute here, because first and foremost, during her hearing, Hera Syndulla mentions the rise of the Imperial Remnant, and Carson Teva brings up the conflict on Mandalore. Of course, the conflict is referring to is the Mandalorian season 3, in which Moff Gideon, with the backing of the Imperial Shadow Council, tried to eliminate the Mandalorian covert led by Bo-Katan Kryze. The mention of this Mandalorian conflict also confirms that the Ahsoka series is chronologically set after the events of Mandalorian season 3. This has been a pretty big debate about when Ahsoka is occurring with the fandom. So this is kind of our first kind of point marker and time marker for Ahsoka and where it falls in the timeline. So I found that to be very interesting in that aspect. But
I think that was important for that to finally be established because there was some question about that. And it makes sense that Ahsoka takes place after this. It does.
Yeah, Nathan, you got your mute on, Nathan.
Sorry, I never understood the idea that it didn't take place after Mando season 3.
I think there was some things because people trying to connect the Purrgil and what happens, and Grogu getting all excited about the Purrgil when he saw them. That was the same one that Ahsoka was in. Things like, so people were trying to connect that.
Oh, that is really grasping at straws.
Yeah.
No.
Tell us how you really feel, Nathan.
Look, I am a straw grasper here. Look, I've got one right here. I will grasp at it. But yeah, no, we have more than one Purrgil in the galaxy.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few other Easter eggs and trivia here. After Thrawn requests information about Ahsoka Tano, Morgan Elsbeth delivers him a tablet with the intel on Ahsoka from the Inquisitorial database. The Inquisitors, of course, being the hunters of Jedi for the Empire, and they've already appeared in Star Wars Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. But that's not all, because Thrawn has a little history with Anakin Skywalker some of you might not know about. Thrawn is taken aback when he discovers that Ahsoka was trained by Anakin Skywalker. Thrawn and Anakin have crossed paths a number of times in canon. The two first met during the Clone Wars, as depicted in Timothy Zahn's Thrawn Alliances novel. The same novel also follows Thrawn and Darth Vader on a mission together during the events of Star Wars Rebels. What I liked is when you could see it in Thrawn and hear it in his voice when he found out Ahsoka was trained by Anakin. He almost had a little bit of uneasiness in his voice when he found that out. Did either of you guys notice that?
They sound a little irritated, I think, too.
Yeah. Like, I can't get away from this fool.
Well, I think this is why he switched to a tactic of, we just want to take up Ahsoka's time because she's too unpredictable to try to beat in a straight fight.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like they just want to stay away from certain things in Legends. But this is where I was hoping that like this Thrawn would like go to his quarters and it'd be an Issa Lamiri just hanging out. Just give me the creature. Come on.
I think they're coming. Because he had them in Rebels.
Yeah. I just need that. I need the Issa Lamiri.
And they've been living a little short supplied out there on other galaxies far, far away. So, but continuing with some trivia and Easter eggs here, guys. This seemed a little familiar, and if you're wondering why, of course, it was kind of a tribute to the Force Awakens, as Kylo Ren used a similar move against, I should say Force Awakens, but Rise of Skywalker, when Kylo Ren used a similar move against Rey, stopping her lightsaber as well. So little tributes everywhere in Ahsoka. And to the great mystery, where has Zeb been, David? If you're paying attention, our good buddy Zeb, who we did see in The Mandalorian. Ezra mentions that Zeb is training recruits in Mandalorian Season 3. Zeb is seen on Adolphi base speaking with Carson Teva. At this point, Zeb is the only character from Rebels crew alive at this time not to appear in Ahsoka. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to see Zeb in Season 1 at any rate, but I think if there's a Season 2, we get a Zeb appearance in that.
I got to see Zeb at the end of this season. He needs to show up the next episode.
I want to see Zeb at the end of the season, but I think the true answer to where is Zeb is in budget heck, because make quite a bit of CGI. He looks great in Mando Season 3, but I know that they spent a lot of time, energy, and money making him look that way. They can't have him appear in every episode. They wouldn't get it done under budget. So maybe we'll see him, but I think it'll be like at the end when he's in maybe the courtroom where Hera was being tried and they greet everybody like, oh, yay, we're all back together.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with what you're thinking on that quite well. So finally, one last little Easter egg. Kevin, you should enjoy this one. Ezra talks to one of the turtle creatures in their language, telling him to use the slingshot. Ezra's main weapon in Rebel series before crafting his lightsaber was, of course, his slingshot. Ezra had to give some slingshot lessons to these guys. Got to teach them how to defend themselves, Kevin.
Yeah, but little pebbles going up against helmets ain't gonna do it.
It worked for the Ewoks.
Yeah, hey, if it can work for the Ewoks, it can work for anybody.
One of them threw a frying pan.
Yeah,
that works. That's more effective.
That is much more effective. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for the trivia. But it is time to get into some of our main topics about Episode 7 of Ahsoka. Okay, guys, we've got a few main topics that I want to talk about, and the first topic is the cameos. This episode, especially at the beginning, was Hera is put to trial for her quote unquote crimes against the Republic. She's sitting there, and we get a cameo I don't think anybody was expecting, guys, because C-3PO himself shows up representing, of course, our Princess Leia with the data to get Hera off the hook. Guys, I was completely and totally shocked by the 3PO appearance. I got to ask, were you expecting it at all, or did you guys
Oh God,
come
no.
across?
No. But
no.
I like that this was the, this was the I guess this is basically Princess Leia being Princess Leia. She's got some pull, she's got some swagger, so she's going to send her protocol droid because everyone knows C-3PO, and I liked it was him that came in. I love the fact it was Anthony Daniels that got to be involved. But Kyle, can you go back to that picture though, real quick? One of the things I loved about this scene too is I also like the fact that Hera. I like this look that Hera has too. She's got that little kind of short general like coat thing going on. She looks very sharp in this scene. Yeah.
Okay, so you can kind of see it here as well. She's got that the cough drop patch. I don't know about that. So, well, real quick before we get into the other cameos here, I just want to talk about this scene real quick because Hera's just beaming with confidence in this. This is great acting by Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera. She's nailed Hera in this episode. Obviously,
I liked when she said. I liked when she says no. What she say that? No, I wasn't going against the Republic. I was going against you.
You specifically.
Yeah. He called him out. That was great. Because you a dick.
And of course, our good friend Carson Teva is back in the courtroom scene, as well as Chopper, who I think was really trying to contain his emotions, not to go murderous astromech Nathan.
Chopper does not try to contain his emotions, and everyone knows exactly what he said. We just can't repeat it on air.
Yeah, exactly. But Kevin, too, I really enjoy Carson Teva as a character since they introduced him in Mandalorian.
Yeah, he's been great. I'll be honest with you. I feel like he's the character that has kind of replaced the other character in Mandalorian that we don't see anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The one that kind of ties, the police officer of the galaxy that kind of ties in one show to another. And Carson's been great. I love Carson. And Jedi Jones is in the chat. Welcome. He got off work. He's able to join us here. So good to see that.
But we still have even more cameos because she's everywhere. She is the new queen of. I'm sorry, she is the new queen of the Star Wars universe.
Does she count as a cameo at this point?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, we get her in Andor, we get her in this. We've seen her in Mandalorian. And she
Genevieve O'Reilly, how good is she as Mon Mothma? She's fantastic. Yeah, especially after seeing her in Andor. My God.
So I want to ask you guys this legitimately. Is she become the new central female character in Star Wars right now? She's in every show. She's playing a key part in when she appears. She has a presence to her and is invaluable to the series. And considering her place within the Senate after the events of Return of the Jedi, and seeing what she was before Andor, I mean, this is a character who has a lot of clout.
She's definitely the throughput, the kind of through line, you might say, kind of like Teva is. Neither one of them is the main character in anything they're in, but they're kind of the connecting tissue.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say that she's the central female character because, I mean, we've got Sabine, we've got Ahsoka, and we've got Hera. So there's a lot of strong female characters in this show, which I love. It's absolutely great. I don't think I can call Mon Mothma the central character for any given show, but she's kind of the character that everything else is rotating around.
Yeah. I can get that. And guys, finally in our cameos, one last thing. It's a trap. Our
Yes.
Admiral Akbar, as a member of the New Republic Senate, I'm loving this. I'm loving everything about this. I'm loving the cameos Ahsoka is doing. I'm loving even the off the wall characters that we hate because they in the case of a certain senator, his son was portrayed in probably one of the least favorite Star Wars animated things. But just the fact that Dave is keeping this so rich and keeping these characters and appearances up, it's been a wonderful thing, and it's it's been great. And guys, are we at the point now? It's like we do. At this point, anybody could show up and we wouldn't be surprised, but we'd just be generally excited.
As Nathan said, this is good connective tissue with the famous characters that we're used to that should be around during this time. And the post Return of the Jedi survivors, basically the ones that are making up the leadership of the New Republic. And it's interesting because these are the characters too. When you talk about Akbar and you talk about Mon Mothma, these are the ones that are competent. We've seen a lot of incompetent New Republic people in, what was it? The season 3 of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mandalorian, they're going around with their eyes closed and stuff like that. And, and when Xiono is going to be right there next to Mon Mothma's side, you're kind of worried. The guy's an idiot.
Okay, guys, I want to get into topic 2, which is what I'm calling Ahsoka returning to action, and also who her training partner is, at least at the start of this show, because we get Ahsoka and she's training with a hologram of Anakin Skywalker. And I'm just real quick want to make this point about Ahsoka in here and now. It's very obvious to me that when whatever happened to Ahsoka in the in episode 5 with the World Between Worlds and her experiences with her, that manifestation of Anakin that she experienced with and going through Clone Wars, it took some kind of burden off of Ahsoka. I personally feel like it took the burden of maybe blame she placed on herself for leaving Anakin and Anakin becoming Darth Vader. And I think that trip through the World Between Worlds really kind of made her realize too, she always had kind of maybe thought of herself as a warrior because she was trained during a war. And that experience through there helped her realize, no, she's not a warrior. She is a Jedi. And I think it's really changed Ahsoka. And I think you see it in this episode because you see her smiling. Even in the scene where she's kind of facing off with Baylan, she's got a little bit of a smile and energy, that classic Ahsoka energy that she had, I would say, up until the point of the final season of Clone Wars, Nathan.
Absolutely, yeah. And she's so much better when she's happy. She really is. We talked about this on What a Piece of Junk, about how in the early episodes, she did not feel like Ahsoka. And she was really the weakest part of those episodes. But one of the things that we said on What a Piece of Junk was that these were early episodes. If that's so that she can have this growth and grow into the character that we really want to see, that's okay for her to be not as good in those early episodes. So I think they've done a great job of that. Huge transformation, very symbolic, going from the gray to the white, much like Gandalf did. And we talked about this on What a Piece of Junk too, but Dave Filoni, when he was asked if Ahsoka was dead when The Rise of Skywalker came out, drew a picture of Gandalf and Ahsoka together, and Gandalf told Ahsoka, "Oh, they all thought I was dead too," and see how that turned out. So she really is the Gandalf character for Dave, and that was not an accident, her going from gray to white.
Yeah. Mr. Reitzel, you had, even before you left, had made comments about how you were feeling Ahsoka was a little dour in those early episodes. Do you feel like those events of episode 5 have changed Ahsoka, and that we are starting to see a Ahsoka who is regained some of that energy of her youth, but is also still a more mature version of Ahsoka?
Yeah, like Nathan said, and knowing that Filoni is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and that in a way she fought her own Balrog, her own demons, so to speak, and maybe it took moments with her almost dying and having the flashbacks of a young apprentice with Anakin during the Clone Wars, which was a great scene that I loved, by the way. I love that we got a early Clone Wars flashback live action. I thought that was great. And then she comes back wearing these white robes, Ahsoka the White, just like, Gandalf, which I thought was good. So, yes, I like seeing Ahsoka smile in this episode. And I felt like she was carrying some type of burden. But I think that still has yet to come to fruition because there's still unanswered questions about what happened between her and Sabine. And I think that might, and at least I hope to, come to fruition in the next episode because something bad happened there, and I think it will come to light, and I think it should.
I agree with you there, and I think I really do hope we get that before the end of this season of Ahsoka. But I do think some of what happened bad there was probably within Ahsoka's mindset as well, with the burden she was carrying, and that made her not be a good teacher at that point in time. And now I think there is a difference both in Ahsoka and Sabine. So it'll be interesting to see where we go with that going forward. But it is funny you should mention Sabine, Kevin, because one of the big things of this episode, reunited, and it feels so good. Ezra and Sabine back together again, the first time we've seen them together since Rebels. And Nathan, they haven't missed a beat since Rebels.
Yeah, I love the contrast in expressions on their faces in this picture. Sabine's like, "What in the world are you
Surrender?
doing?"
Like,
what? Maybe you want us as prisoners. Yeah, prisoners is good. Not dead. Anything with not dead is good. Yeah, it was great to see them, and it was great to see Ezra has grown so much since Rebels. He doesn't even fight with a lightsaber at this point. He's moved past it. He's on to, I use the Force. The Force is my ally. He's like Chur Dimway. The Force is with me, and I'm whatever he says. It's great.
Yeah, Kevin, what about you? What were your initial feelings seeing these two back together?
Yeah, it was like before they got attacked by the Raiders and stuff. It was nice just to kind of see them have a conversation. I would have liked to have seen more from that conversation. Maybe have a little fun with it, where he kind of questions, like, "Really, that happened? Boy, I did miss a lot." I wanted more of that, but it was nice to see these two get back there. And I was curious why doesn't Ezra want to use a lightsaber? Because, well, the Force is with him, and uses the Force and weapons against him and stuff, but I still need to see Ezra with a lightsaber. I hope that'll happen. We'll see. But it was nice to see these guys back together. It was cool.
One of the things that though is standing out to me, and I think it's just trying to show maybe a little bit of the character flaws in Sabine, is the fact that she's so hesitant to tell Ezra the truth about how she got there and what's going on, and not having faith in Ezra to understand. And I think that's a very interesting subplot that I think will come to a head in the next episode. But of course, here we have this picture of Ezra just using the Force as his weapon, and I kind of have a feeling about this, and I'm curious to see what you guys think of this as well, because I think Ezra, in his time alone on this planet, has become more one of the Force, maybe with like the living Force, kind of in the Qui-Gon Jinn kind of way, where he doesn't need anything more than the Force. And I kind of wonder if Ezra is also kind of, I don't want to say anti-violence, because he does pick up a blaster, but he's trying to avoid something with the lightsaber. I think there's something in him that he doesn't want to pick up a lightsaber, and I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out. Are you guys thinking that might be kind of the case here with Ezra?
I don't know about that. I think he's just more of a state of peace, and he's, I don't know. I'm not feeling that yet.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin on that. I don't think that he's trying to avoid killing anybody or anything, because he does do that. He just doesn't do it with a lightsaber. I'm wondering if he just hasn't had a lightsaber in so long, he's just gotten used to not having one. I don't think he's been able to build one out on this planet because I don't think he's got access to a kyber crystal. Even if he could make the shaft and everything, I don't think he could finish one. So he's gotten used to, this is how I fight. Raiders attack and I use the Force to fight them off. These night troopers attack, I use the Force to fight them off too.
I think it's a good point. I will be shocked if Ezra doesn't pick up a lightsaber before the end of next week's episode. So
I will say I'll be shocked if he doesn't pick up a lightsaber before the end of the movie. I could see him not picking one up until the movie, though.
Oh, that I think that's fair. But of course, too, and finally, guys, the reunions continue as Ahsoka is also finally reunited with Ezra and Sabine. This was just a great moment, getting to see the three of them sharing the screen. And I think a lot of people forgot about the connection Ezra has with Sabine, because Sabine kind of did take over a little bit, or as I was say Sabine, but Ahsoka helped in Ezra's training and was a big part of that as well. So he does have a much stronger connection with Ahsoka than most people, I think, really remember. And I'm curious to see too what she gets from Ezra in the finale too, because Ahsoka's definitely going to be more, I think, attuned to see if she senses any changes in Ezra as well through his experiences. What are you guys feeling as far as this reunion goes?
I think one very important thing for Ahsoka is she's seeing somebody that she had a hand in training who has become a Jedi level character, maybe not a Boken Jedi, as a certain villain put it, and didn't go to the dark side. I think she's worried with Sabine that she may go wrong. After all, she was taught by Vader and she learned these lessons. If she passes on those lessons, then her apprentice may become a villain, may fall to the dark side. Now she's seen that isn't necessarily the case. My apprentices don't necessarily go to the dark side. That may help her with her relationship with Sabine, because now she's not as worried that Sabine would go to the dark side.
That's an interesting point, Nathan, because that also would then tie into the fact when she is offering to Sin that, hey, I can help you. Mm-hmm. She probably wouldn't have done that if it was the Ahsoka from the beginning of the show, Kevin.
Well, and if you want to, sorry if I might jump in right quick, proof that she wouldn't have done that, when Grogu shows up, she refuses to train him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm just the question that all of this keeps coming to my head, even Jason, is where is the Jedi? Where are the Jedi in the next 5 or 10 years? You know, before the sequel trilogy and the death of all the younglings by Kylo Ren, apparently. You know, what happens? What does? How long is Luke? Is Luke actively trying to get things together right now, or does he wait too late? That's the question I have right now watching this. You know, where do these Boken Jedi or these, you know, Shin Hati type characters that, you know, come from a different place but have these abilities, you know, are we going to have these not so-called, you know, Sith style villains and Force users? Where's this going to go with the Jedi in the interim until, you know, Luke does start opening up his academy and such, you know, or continues his academy in heavy recruiting? That's the question that this series is bringing me right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, because this series does feel in ways it's like trying to play a little bit of connected dots between what's happening now and what happens in the sequel trilogy here as well. So I'm very curious of what direction Dave is going with this and what we're going to see, because you feel like in some ways they're putting the pieces together for Luke to train later on in his academy that he establishes, but are these the kind of people who are going to be involved? And I think that's kind of some of our biggest questions. We used to ask, well, what were these people during the original trilogy? and now we're asking, well, where are they during the sequel trilogy? So I think that's an interesting question to ask. But speaking of where people are, the last topic I have with this particular episode is agendas, especially from our bad guys, because we've got the Night Sisters, we have Balin and his agenda, and of course we have Thrawn and his agenda. Guys, everybody seems to have feels like they have their own agenda somewhere down the line. I don't think these agendas can coexist much longer, and I'm just curious to see where you guys think we're headed with some of these things, because they're all in. To me, this is one of the most intriguing aspects of this: is whose agendas are going to win out. Now, I have a feeling that it's probably going to end up being Thrawn in the long run, just because of that's just how Thrawn is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. But what are you guys feeling as far as the split directions that these three villains are trying to stay united, but each have their own ideas are going forward? Kevin?
I think that when it comes to Thrawn, I feel like he has something over the Night Sisters to be able to control them the way he seems to right now. The Night Sisters feel like, a powerful force among themselves, that maybe they're just kind of playing the long game, and they're going to turn their power against him. And maybe he's foreseeing that and he's taking his own precautions up. But there's something that we're not learning there. Why is he working with them, and why are they working with him? So that's a question I have there. But also, when it comes to Balin, obviously he's got something going on. He wants to stop the cycle, and he wants to, in his way, kind of maybe start his own cycle with something, with the help of Hati, if that's still going to happen. It's curious. To me, it's just a recipe for disaster when it comes to all these bad guys working together, because you got a little hint of that in this episode when I forget exactly how Thrawn says it, but you can tell he has disappointment in Lord Balin Skull not doing what he was expecting to do for him.
Nathan, I kind of get a feeling, from at least personally, that everybody's trying to think everybody else is their tool to use. The Night Sisters are maybe thinking Thrawn is their tool to use to get back to that galaxy, get back to Dathomir, maybe rebuild the Night Sisters. Thrawn's using the Night Sisters as his way to get connections to the universe so he can get back to his own galaxy. And Balin, who seems to want to be where the Night Sisters and Thrawn are currently, because he feels there's something there that will change and break the cycle, along with what Thrawn is proposing. So Balin's trying to use Thrawn to get to where he wants to find this other power, and use Thrawn as the tool to break the cycle. And I think it's safe to say, when we look at the long game, maybe none of these plans work, because by the time we get to Force Awakens, the cycle is basically repeating itself again.
Yeah, at some point, Thrawn has to be defeated. He's not around for the First Order. First Order would have been much better off if he was. One of the big weaknesses of the First Order was they got rid of all the experience. They made Kennedy a captain, the guy who said, we should have scrambled fighters 5 bloody minutes ago. Yeah, he's the guy who knew what he was doing, and the people who were in charge had no clue what they were doing. If they had Thrawn could have taken control of that sort of situation, and things would have gone much differently. So yeah, he can't make it all the way out. And I have a theory as to how he might not make it. And it has to do with Enoch. Because we haven't seen Enoch's face. And we're definitely pulling some inspiration from the Heir to the Empire trilogy. I'm wondering if Enoch is our Rook surrogate. Perhaps even a Nagiri.
The bodyguard that he had in that book, yeah.
Because spoilers for The Last Command, I know that book came out 30 years ago. Gosh, I'm old. But Rook was instrumental in the downfall of Thrawn. I'll just put it that way. So Enoch could end up being instrumental in that form. The Night Sisters, those are the ones that really scare me because I don't know why they're working with Thrawn. They could be doing anything. It could just be that he's got a Ysalamiri and can control them because, oh yeah, whenever I want you to not be able to use the Force, boom, you can't. But I really feel like they're trying to pull something over, pull the wool over his eyes. And that's a hard thing to do against Thrawn.
Mm.
And then Lord Balin, he doesn't scare me so much as I think he's going to be the way that our heroes actually make it back to our galaxy. Because I think that he's looking for a way to control the world between worlds. He's talked about looking for a higher power. And in Rebels, they did talk about how the world between worlds, whoever controls that, controls the fate of the galaxy. I think that he thinks it starts here on this planet, and he's looking for a way to control the world between worlds, and that may be a device by which our heroes, who are seemingly stranded in this other galaxy, could get back to our galaxy to stop Thrawn and bring about what we know happens in the sequel trilogy.
Kevin, I think he's using clone telepathy to get ideas.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
if it works, it works, right?
So you mentioned the Night Sisters because I think they are kind of the wild card in this because I don't think any of us truly expected the Night Sisters to be playing such a major role in this series. Which leads me to the one last question I have for you guys. Are we sure Thrawn hasn't crossed over to The Walking Dead? Because the packaging that keep loading up looks a lot like coffins to me. And he's talking about needing more of their magics, and we've already established, a resurrected character in this series with Merrick. I kind of feel like there's at least a good chunk of Thrawn's army that's not quite living with us, shall we say? Are you guys getting that vibe?
Resurrected Night Sister demons, maybe? I don't know. Ones that are Force attuned. That'll be helpful in the fight against the New Republic.
Yeah, so the Night Troopers themselves, there was some speculation as to whether they were dead or not. And from this episode, it appears they aren't because the ones who died in the fight against our heroes didn't do the mist thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
they're humans. They're humans.
Those are humans. But Thrawn has mentioned that their numbers have dwindled. They have lost people. And yeah, those look a lot like coffins. And that really played into the Dracula feel that we get from Thrawn. But I think you're right. He may be loading up dead stormtroopers to reanimate once they get to our galaxy. And then that's a whole new threat. That's why we got to take out the Night Sisters so they can't keep doing this.
As it always comes back to me with Thrawn, even if the bad guys are playing chess, Kevin, he's playing three-dimensional Star Trek chess.
I need to see him really make that payoff, though. He hasn't convinced me of that yet. In the original Thrawn trilogy, yes, you got that. But from what I've seen from Rebels and here, I'm still waiting for that definitive Thrawn, I'm the one you should really be afraid of moment. They keep talking about it. Hera keeps saying we can't have Thrawn back, and everyone's saying we can't have Thrawn back. I'm like, well, let's see what he can really do. I need to be convinced of this.
The problem is he needs to go up against people who aren't the heroes so that he can just totally and utterly win. Because for plot reasons, he can't kill Ezra. He can't kill Sabine. He can't kill Ahsoka. Or if he does, that's a point that we don't come back from. But he could kill all sorts of Republic troopers. He could take out entire ships. He could take out Home One. After all,
there's one Star Destroyer right
Home
now.
One.
I don't see that happening, so I'm really curious to see what else he's got.
So can I throw an idea out here, guys? Whether I think personally, this season is going to end with Thrawn getting back to the traditional Star Wars galaxy. I think that's kind of a given at this point. There are two moments that I can see coming, whether it's in next season of Mandalorian, whether it's in the next season of Ahsoka when it comes out, or whatever is next. Thrawn walking in on the Shadow Council that we saw in Mandalorian season 3, because they mentioned him there. There are obviously a lot of Thrawn loyalists within that Shadow Council. I think the other moment would be Thrawn walking literally into the New Republic Senate, and just because he would pull a maneuver like that, and just the shock factor of that all, and the realization that Thrawn is back, and the fear that
I need to see that. And Jedi Jones agrees with me. We need to see why Thrawn is so feared. We need to see him make a power move that scares the New Republic and makes senators like whatever Ziono, crap his bed. And I need to see some type of cliffhanger in this season of that. And because right now I just see 300 coffins and one starship. He's got to have more than that.
My question would be: is the New Republic actually smart enough to actually be afraid of Thrawn?
No, no, they dumb. They real dumb.
Yeah.
Mothma, Leia, yes. Most of them, no.
Yeah.
I think the thing that could really seal it, though, there's a scene in the books where Thrawn was introduced, where he goes up against
Legends or canons?
Well, it's Legends now. But the 90s books, when he was first introduced, where he faces off against some New Republic forces, and he sends a few TIE fighters out. One of them gets destroyed. He's like, okay, this tells me exactly what I need to know. I know who's commanding this, and we're going to do this and just utterly destroy them. Maybe leave one person to go, tell everybody, what happened here, to spread the fear. He needs to do that. He needs to show up in our galaxy and just take out, I think, Home One. Take out the flagship in one fell swoop, and just utterly, no losses, just blow it up, leave just Hera to go tell, hey, by the way, we lost this ship. And that would also explain why we don't have Home One in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we got one episode left. I cannot wait to see what they're going to pull off, what Dave is going to pull off. We're going to be left on a cliffhanger, but I'm excited. I can't believe it's already been 8 episodes, but bring it on. I am ready for it. Jedi Jones, Kaz's dad is as smart as that guy Ed 29 out the window that one time. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I think so there, but we do have some other things in fandom to talk about, including a kind of important piece of news. So without further ado,
let's news.
Yeah, this Writers Guild on strike. Yeah, no, we're not going to talk about that anymore because it is over. The writer's strike is done. That is one half of the coin. We are still obviously waiting on the SAG actor strike to end, but this is a big piece of the puzzle, guys. It is officially over. There's just some legal mumbo jumbo that needs to happen, but the writers are headed back to work. And we were already seeing some of the results of that. HBO has already announced that their goal right now is to focus on 3 of their biggest shows. They've dropped Euphoria, which is a very popular show for them. There was another one of their shows. I can't recall which one it was. And, of course, get right to work on Last of Us Season 2. There are rumors that Disney and Marvel are already speaking with writers about future MCU projects, including an X-Men film. Obviously, the second half of this that needs to drop is the end of the actor strike, which a lot of people feel like that will happen sometime in the next few weeks. And that if all goes according to plan and all goes well, things could be back in production shortly after the Thanksgiving holiday, which I think puts us on target to start seeing a lot of these things that have either been pushed back or put on hold that were close to finish, probably coming out in the second half of 2024, because I think the first half of 2024 is locked up for the stuff that's been moved, like Dune and those kind of things. But guys, the writer strike is over. Kevin, we're gonna have content soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping to marathon a bunch of stuff I had planned because of the strike. But the writer strike has come to a conclusion faster than I expected. I was expecting it to drag out through the end of the year. So this is good news. But now we need actors to act those scripts to be done now. So I'm hoping that the actor strike can be done soon as well. So,
well, I think we're still going to get a little bit of a break in content because it's going to be a bit before this stuff gets back up and running and they start filming. There's a lot of logistics they've got to go through, and like I said, I think the first half of 2024, Nathan, is pretty much kind of planned out at this point because of the studio shifting things. I think they'll pop a few things in here and there, but I think we're really going to, if the actor strike ends within the next few weeks, we're really going to see all the stuff like Deadpool 3, a few other shows really start to get announced for the second half of 2024. But it's just, I know the writers felt like it was a big win for them. They got a lot of things they wanted, especially in considering the AI and things like that. I'm just glad that they're getting back to work, Nathan.
Oh, definitely. And AI is such a huge question. I'm glad they were able to get something resolved. I have no idea what they agreed to, but I'm just happy they agreed to something.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next few months, to see what gets fast tracked to get put out and what they're going to take their time with, and the approach that these studios are going to take, because they've had to make changes and they've made decisions going forward, even after the strike, of how they're going to do business. And I think it's a good thing, because I think some of these studios need to change how they do business, especially certain mouse-eared ones, but that's a whole other thing. But it is exciting. I think we've all been sick of hearing about on strike and when are they coming back and what's going to happen. So hopefully we'll be fully resolved of this here shortly over the next few weeks. But with that too, guys, there are still a few things coming out. Honestly, I haven't had a chance much time to watch much of the new stuff because I've been working Ahsoka and catching up on work and a few other things. But Kevin, you were on vacation and you managed to check out a movie and a couple of other different experiences. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time to buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Rule one of Raider Nerd Adventures: it doesn't matter where he is at. If there is a big time action film coming out, he will go find a way to see it. And Kevin, it's a big time action film, but is it a good big time action film? Deadpool 4 has come out, and I guess my biggest question is, will we really need another Expendables?
So yeah, I was in the UK for most of my stay, and Aaron and I are big fans of trying to stay on top of new movie releases and other fun stuff. And then we also had spent some time in Paris. We did a long weekend there. That was fun. But I was on my own when it came to going to see Expendables 4. She was like, yeah, you do that by yourself. I did want to say real quick before I get to Expendables 4, I finally got to see the same theater that Aaron and I had our first date in when we met in England back in 2016, when we saw the 30th anniversary of Aliens together. And then in 2018, we went to the same theater. It's called the Prince Charles Theater. And it's one of those great theaters that showcases old school cinema and retro cinema. And they have a full calendar of older films that they put on the big screen. We saw Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark there, my favorite movie. And so I was like, I wanted to see a movie while I was there. We went to go see The Last Starfighter. They were playing that there. And I had never seen The Last Starfighter in the theater at all. I saw it on video on VHS. So it was nice to see that. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? I want to go see the new Expendables 4 action movie here. And I knew that this was coming out, and I was curious about it because I love the original trilogy with all the different actors and action heroes that would show up and kind of come in for a hot minute and do their thing. So the idea of this film is to have a couple of the original Expendables and showcase some new blood, as they call it. And that didn't go over well. Megan Fox was one of the new blood. She has a relationship with Statham's character, their boyfriend and girlfriend, I guess, and it's a little volatile. And basically, without spoiling too much, Stallone is not in this movie a lot. They find a way for him to kind of come in, do his thing, and then kind of get out for a while, basically. This movie is mostly Statham's vehicle with the help of some of these newer characters. And they're trying to stop these guys on this boat with some nukes, trying to basically start World War III, blah, blah, blah. We've seen this before. Kyle, do you remember the movie Rogue with Megan Fox, where she kind of played a special ops person? Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, that is the movie she did with her current husband, Machine Gun Kelly, is it not?
I don't remember him being in the film. Possibly, I don't know. But she plays like a special ops person in Africa, and she leads her group and stuff like that. Well, this movie, her character was more interested in having her hair down and her makeup perfect the whole time. I don't know why they went that way. I'm just going to say this. Don't waste your time. It's an unsee it.
That's the first unsee it we've had in a while now. I really had no desire to go see this. I kind of felt like we wrapped up Expendables nicely with Expendables 3.
Yeah,
we were ready to move on. And from what I had heard about this, the plot of this movie is so disconjointed.
Here's how it's not disconjointed. It's just stupid. and here's how bad it is. So my dad has this weird ability to find an Expendables movie, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, somewhere playing on television cable somewhere, whether it's on HBO or it's being shown on commercials on basic cable or whatever it is. He seems to always find one, and he watches them, right? And so I was kind of curious because I didn't want to like spoil anything with him because I thought he might want to see this because it's an Expendables film. And as soon as I got home from my trip, I'm like, Dad, there's a new Expendables movie. He's like, yeah, no, I heard it wasn't really good. I don't want to go see it. So
ouch.
Yeah. It's unfortunately a waste of time. And these newer characters, I think one of the characters was the son of Antonio Banderas's character.
Yeah, I had read that. I did read that.
Yeah, and even the two guys they had from they had Tony Jaa, who was like he played the good guy, and then they had that Uwe guy from the Raid. He was the villain, the main villain, and even there's a decent action scenes, but when it comes down to it, the Expendables are good because of the characters that are in it and these aging mercenaries and the way they get together. And there was a twist in it that was totally predictable. And they should have done better with it. That's why don't waste your time. It's an unsee it.
Okay, Kevin. So I do have a question for you because after G.I. Joe Snake Eyes, I have a new rule anytime Iko Uwais is in a film. Our guy from the Raid. If you put him in a film and you waste him, you are going to automatically be shelved on me. Snake Eyes wasted him. They didn't even really use him much for an action scene in Snake Eyes. Did they at least give him a good fight scene with Jason Statham in this movie?
Yeah, he had his moment. I honestly, he might have been the only redeeming thing of this movie. Statham, I felt like Statham was promised, like, if you come back for this one, we're going to let you be the lead action hero throughout the film. That's exactly what happened. And after seeing him in Meg 2, The Trench, which, by the way, I don't know if we talked about that one.
No, we haven't, because I don't think at the time neither of us had seen it yet.
Yeah, that's an unsee it, by the way.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the first one. The first one was good. This one was not. So I don't know. It just felt like, I'd rather go watch one of his other films instead. This movie, unfortunately, is an unsee it. So,
well, let's talk about some things you did see that I know you enjoyed, and they might not even fall under the movie category because, Kevin, you saw a musical?
Hell yeah, I did. Yes. While in London, my wife and I and my mother-in-law, we went to go see Back to the Future, the musical.
Oh my God, Kevin, that's so heavy.
Yes.
I see what you
Yes.
did there.
Yes. It's going to be starting its New York Broadway run very soon. I remember seeing them promote it before I left for England, basically. And I wasn't aware that they were still doing a London run of it, and they were. And it was a really, really fun, good production of the first film. And the sets were great. They had the DeLorean, which was fun. They had some. I thought they were very clever in the musical numbers that they included in this, in addition to some of the famous songs that were used in the original film. They had some new music, new musical, and it was a lot of fun the way they did it. They had to change a few things, whether it's because it's the time or whatever. They took out Doc Brown being killed by the terrorist. Instead, he gets killed by his own radiation poisoning. So they have to kind of do that type of thing. And there's a few other things they had to adjust for the play that weren't in the film that they did for the play to kind of, bring it all together a little bit that is more conducive to a stage show. The stage show had great production value. It was fun. It was funny. And if you have a chance to see it when in New York, or if it's, I know it's still playing in London. And the best part about it was we got them for really good, cheap tickets. They were having this special, like, one day only. It was like a Thursday matinee show for a lot of theaters and a lot of productions going on that day, where tickets were like around 30 to 40 pounds per ticket. And we got tickets for it and we went to it. And it was a lot of fun. We had, we were able, from where we were sitting, we were able to see everything. We were up in the balcony area, and Aaron and I were at the Adelphi Theater, which is where it's playing right there. And they have a cool little photo shoot in the theater where you can get your picture taken in front of the clock there, which was kind of neat. So yeah, we had a good time there. It was fun.
40 pounds a ticket. That's heavy.
No, that's light. That is really, really light.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to a musical next month, and I paid about $80 after fees, and I'm not getting the best seats in the house. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ Superstar. But yeah, this is going to go on my list. You talk about action movies, I drop out. Don't really care about those. Musicals, love them. Whenever this comes off Broadway, because I'm not making it to New York for it, I do want to go see this.
Yeah, it was done quite well. I was very pleased with it.
Okay, Kevin, I do have one question for you. Back to the Future, the musical, or Rogers, the musical?
I haven't seen Rogers, so I don't know. I would love to see Rogers, the musical. I think it's still playing it in LA, but I have not seen it. So you'll have to ask the Woloskis that from Skywalking Through Neverland. I know they've seen it. So
yeah, that is true. But Kevin, you also did a little tour of scenes, which you like to, in your Raider Nerd travels, you like to go to filming locations.
My wife and I love going to filming locations for shows and movies that we love. So yeah.
Rumor has it you were seen at some high level European football locations.
If you're a fan of Ted Lasso, Aaron and I went to Richmond, UK, which is about maybe a 30-minute train ride. You take the subway, which they call the tube there, and you go about 30 minutes west, and you come to a town called Richmond, which is where Ted Lasso takes place, in Richmond. And the fictional team, the AFC Richmond Greyhounds, I remember correctly, this is a real town that you can visit. And we went to go visit this area in Richmond where they film a lot of the exterior scenes, where Ted Lasso leaves his apartment, and also where the bar is, the famous bar, and the park are all literally right next to each other. And we these pictures I have here, I decided to do my best Ted Lasso impression of walking down the little corridor there where he lives, and there's his door is there. You can get your picture next to, and then right across from it is like a little gift shop that celebrates with Ted Lasso memorabilia that you can buy and some homemade items and stuff like that. And then the bar literally is right down about another 50 feet, and it's a working bar. It's not a set. They film inside there, and they have an AFC Richmond banner up there, and they really cater to the fans and the tourists that come there for this. And as we were leaving, we saw a Ted Lasso tour that was getting ready to start. And it's pretty easy to find once you get off the subway there. You go up there and you walk, maybe about 5 minutes, and you get to the area, and it's really, really cool. So, yeah. And by the way, I was wearing my Roy Kent jersey that a friend of mine, Keith, got for me. And what's funny, too, is when I went into the gift shop, I saw someone wearing a Jamie Tart jersey. And if you're fans of the show, you will know who those characters are.
That is incredibly awesome. Ted Lasso is a phenomenon. I know some people have not had a chance to see it because it is behind the paywall of Apple TV Plus. But before we get into the closing of this episode of Culture Clash, Kevin, too, you told me you had a little Star Wars show and tell for us.
Yes, I got some show and tell for you guys. First of all, I was able to pick up a limited edition Steelbook Blu-ray of Solo 3D version, and I also got this for Kyle. He's been wanting one of these Rogue One 3Ds here. Got that there. But I went on to Etsy because I found something cool on Etsy. This guy has his own Etsy shop. He goes by Beta Cygni Designs. It's BETACYGNI Designs. And he makes some really cool stuff, especially for those that maybe have been to Batuu at Star Wars Land, as some people call it, at the Disney Star Wars theme parks. You can get a Camtono, right? And I got mine last year, and it's really cool because it's got the little code thing, which I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to open it up for you because there's a reason why.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you open it up, you unlock it, and the Camtono opens. Well, there's this guy on Etsy that is making these little containers that go inside the Camtono. And it fits up in there, right? Okay, these little containers. And there's a bottom part of the container, too, that fit right in here. But he also is selling these cool little, I'll show you right now. Those are Lando Calrissian
cookies.
Sabac chips. Right.
Oh, never mind. Not cookies.
Not cookies. And so check these out. He 3D prints these things. They're pretty cool. But I wanted to give him a shout out because for those that have these Camtonos, if you want to, you can go onto Etsy and purchase these from him. And they're very cool. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that. And also, too, by the way, one of the things from Solo I've been wanting to get, and I forgot to get, but I found it on clearance. I got the Solo Speeder while I was over there in the UK. If you're ever in London, make sure you check out Forbidden Planet. It is the biggest geek store there. My wife actually used to work there when she lived in London for a while back in like the late 90s and early 2000s. It's got a bunch of toys and collectibles and stuff like that. And it was on sale for $15.99, 16 pounds. So I was able to pick that up. So that's just about around $20 on eBay. They're a lot more expensive now, especially sealed and shipping and all that kind of stuff. So. That's my Star Wars show and tell today, guys.
Wait, Kevin, I have a very important question for you. What did you do with all the network best car that was in your Camtono?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know it didn't pay off all of the double parking tickets for the Drunken Gungan.
Look, we did have to find some alternate revenue streams. Just saying.
Yeah.
You got to spend money to make money.
I leave these guys alone for 2 minutes. I swear. But
we kept all the capes.
Yeah, because I don't want Donald Glover coming after us. I like Donald Glover. I would throw you guys under the bus for Donald Glover. I'm just saying. But guys, in all truth, first of all, thank you so much for joining us for this live edition of Culture Clash, Kevin. It is great to have you back.
Good to be back.
What we got planned for the rest of the year. Of course, you can find Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, if you're watching live, thank you so much. You're watching on our YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share our YouTube channel as we continue to work to grow our presence on YouTube. Of course,
thanks for everyone watching there in the YouTube. Jedi Jones, David Lozano, everyone else. Appreciate you guys.
Of course, too, we will be putting out the audio version of this podcast on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. And of course, with Nathan, too, please check out What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars dedicated show. You guys are doing a phenomenal job over there. And I know you and Scott are getting ready to kind of dive into some card gaming, even more so with the new Star Wars card game.
Star Wars Unlimited. Very excited. We just got to see the Grand Inquisitor and what he's going to do. And man, I'm excited to make a deck using him.
Yeah, so Ahsoka's going to end. You're going to have a little break before we have our next Star Wars show. So I expect to hear a lot more about Star Wars Unlimited because I'm curious to see. And it's been a while since the Decipher Star Wars game, so I'm looking forward to that. And of course, too, for the rest of you, we have all of our great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. A couple things to check out right now. A couple of great couch potato theaters out there. We celebrated 30 years of Jurassic Park, talked about its place in history. Kevin and I were joined, of course, by the Queen of Movie Foo, one Lacey Adderhold, who, of course, you can also see on our editions of Time Warp, Kevin, where we are covering the movies of 1983.
Yeah, we got the new episode we're going to be recording soon. And for you action fans, we also celebrated one of the best action movies 30 years ago. We did Hard Target, Jean-Claude Van Damme, directed by John Woo. And of course, we had our own lethal mullet, Adam O'Brien, joining us for that. So check it out.
I don't know if it's one of the best action films, but it's definitely one of the best mullets of that time.
This is true. Yes.
And of course, there are some great ways to find the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, our Facebook page, where we keep you updated on the latest happenings in fandom. If you want to contact us directly, you can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network, or on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it these days at FanPod Network. Of course, I'm Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW, on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you on the infinite amount of social media that is out there these days?
You can find me on Threads, Twitter, and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. Of course, you can find me in the What a Piece of Junk Facebook group. I'm always posting stuff there for Star Wars stuff, and also on the Fandom Podcast Network, and of course on Facebook.
Nathan, besides when you're flying around in the Drunken Gungan on What a Piece of Junk, where can people find you on social media?
Honestly, that's the best place to find me, on What a Piece of Junk. But I'm also on Facebook under my real name, Nathan Miracle. I'm also on Instagram and on Threads at Gooey Chewy, spelled just like it is right down there. And you should expect to see some Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures tomorrow, because I'm going to a tournament.
I saw you've had some interesting battles.
Yes, I'm not great at the game, but it's a whole lot of fun.
That's the most important thing. As far as what's coming up on Culture Clash, of course, we have this season. Is it the series finale? We don't know yet. No announcements made, but the writers are back, so hopefully we're going to get something soon. But the season finale of this season of Ahsoka, be prepared to be left on cliffhangers. That's all I'm going to say, but we're going to have a lot of thoughts on that. And right around the corner, we're going to have a little merger between True Believers and Culture Clash, because Loki Watch is coming. It's time to get into the mischief with everybody's favorite god of mischief. We're going to see. I'm going to be honest with you. Kevin and I were a little up and down on Loki Season 1, so we're going to see what Marvel and the MCU can do with Loki Season 2. I think it's a big project for them after what happened with Secret Invasion. We're going to be covering that, and there's actually some very interesting things coming out in the fandom as well. We've got Gen V, the spinoff from The Boys. We've got the movie The Creator, Gareth Edwards' first film since Rogue One. We've got the Marvels coming out in November, and of course, October is Halloween time, Kevin. So I'm expecting the lovely wife to maybe make an appearance or two on the Fandom Podcast Network in Halloween.
We've been talking about that.
That was neither a yes or no.
Yeah, well, that's about right, because she likes to keep us in mystery. We never know when she's going to pop out around the corner, holding some kind of weapon. But as long as it's not a chainsaw, I will feel pretty good. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, as we like to say around here, as we close things out, respect each other, and most importantly, enjoy your fandom.